Greetings, fellow humans. Katrina here. Quick disclaimer. I am a professional. I'm not your professional. Nothing I'm about to say should be taken as medical, legal, or otherwise advice. This podcast is purely for education and amusement purposes. That is it. Disclaimer over. I do want to apologize for the audio quality of some of the recent episodes. I have switched microphones again, so hopefully this episode sounds smoother. Today, I want to talk about what I don't know about medical marijuana. I will tell you some of the things of what it's used to treat, a few methods of ingestion, how to get a recommendation in the state of Oklahoma, and then Oklahoma laws and penalties for illegal possession. Here we go. Some of the things it's used to treat are autoimmune disorders, things like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis. In addition to that, there are eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia, that medical marijuana can help stimulate the appetite and treat those. Of course, there's also cancer, similar thing, appetite and a reduction of inflammation, that sort of thing. Chronic pain, that's what I meant to say about the inflammation. Chronic pain a lot of times is caused from inflammation or other nerve or muscle pain. And then seizure disorders, as well as post-traumatic stress. Now, a book I've read recently, The Survivor's Guide to Medical Cannabis by Dr. Regina Nelson, she talks about post-traumatic stress a bit and how rather than being a disorder, it's a bit more of a shock. And so she discusses the value of the indica dominant strains for symptom relief. The way that I was taught was if you think indica, couch, and that can represent the effects of ingesting that. So since many strains are now hybrids and really difficult to distinguish, this terpene called myrcene, Myrcene, I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but that's the terpene to look for, to be high in, to get those sedative effects rather. Now, there are exceptions to every rule. There are actually a small number of people who have relief from post-traumatic stress symptoms using sativa dominant strains. I do think there needs to be more research into marijuana as a whole, and hopefully as the legality changes across the nation, more and more research is underway. So methods of ingestions. It's no longer just smoking one of them funny looking little cigarettes. Yes, many people do still use combustibles, but I do hear folks referring to it differently. So instead of bud, people often say flower to refer to the smokable marijuana. But there are other methods, which include, but there's probably more, I don't know. It includes concentrates, dabbing, rosin, shatter, or wax. There are also essential oils. There's this thing called nano emulsification. I couldn't describe it to you if I tried, but basically it absorbs through the bloodstream. A quicker method of getting it rather than going through the digestive system. Tinctures, and I do believe you drop those under your tongue. There's also juice, which I believe is rather expensive, but a delightful drink, or other beverages like Bang, Bhang. That's a creamy beverage that originated in India, as well as edibles, which some folks prefer to purchase and some folks prefer to make on their own. And then transdermal use. So there's like creams, topical applications that can be put straight on through the skin, onto the skin and absorbed through the skin. That's what I meant to say. And then there's also suppositories, capsules or tablets. So pills are available if that's a preference. And I don't know many more, but I'm sure that there are more. Now, as of 2021 in Oklahoma, this is where it gets state specific. So if you're not interested in the Oklahoma aspects of things, you can go ahead and skip over this. But as of 2021 in Oklahoma, medical marijuana does require a physician recommendation. Now, the physicians that are willing to provide recommendations are in fact limited. Some do online, the telehealth, because of the pandemic. I do believe there's a lot more being done online. But the place to start would be going to oklahoma.gov, and then you'll navigate to the OMMA tab. and that stands for Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority. And then you click the appropriate tab for your situation. So if you're an adult, there's a tab for that, and it has a ton of instructions that may look overwhelming. Don't panic. There are some physician facilities that will help you with the application process, including taking a photo and submitting the application. All you have to do is ask. Now, I don't know why it's made so complicated, but it does mention the expiration date of a minor. Turning 18 is 30 days after their birthday. This means they'll have to go through the entire process of applying as an adult as quickly as possible so that they remain legal in their usage. So on to the illegal stuff. It is still federally illegal and recreationally illegal in the state of Oklahoma. So this means the penalties for getting caught with illegal marijuana are intense, at least from my perspective. As far as I know, the penalty for possession is a misdemeanor for the first and subsequent offenses. And I do believe that's different from how it was in the past. I think it used to be the first was a misdemeanor, second was a misdemeanor, third was a felony. I could be wrong, but that's what I thought it was a long time ago. But now it's a misdemeanor for first and subsequent. But then the sale or distribution is a felony with larger fines and longer prison time based on the weight. And then if it's within 2,000 feet of certain places like public parks, the penalty carries, wait for it, double period of incarceration and fine and a mandatory minimum sentence. So I hadn't heard of that mandatory minimum sentence until recently, and I bet others haven't either. So what that is, I'll read directly from the website normal, NORML.org. It defines the mandatory minimum sentence as when someone is convicted of an offense punishable by a mandatory minimum sentence, the judge must sentence the defendant to the mandatory minimum sentence or to a higher sentence. The judge has no power to sentence the defendant to less time than the mandatory minimum. So, a prisoner serving an MMS for a federal offense and for most state offenses will not be eligible for parole. Even a peaceful marijuana smokers sentenced to life MMS must serve a life sentence with no chance of parole. Wow, do I really hope that changes one day, sooner rather than later. It is sad. I really think it ought to be legal for recreational and medicinal use. The reality is that many folks use marijuana illegally, but actually medicinally, and for a myriad of reasons are unable to obtain the legal medical recommendation and license. So today I told you a bit about what medical marijuana is used to treat, a few methods of ingestion, and a bit about Oklahoma recommendations and legal stuff. If you like the podcast and want to support the show, you can cash at me at Katrina Dragon or click the link on my website. As always, I do appreciate each and every one of you simply for existing.